Have you ever wondered which is greater, service or devotion? Today we'll hear the story of two sisters, Mary and Martha, whose lives were shaped by this very question. One sister was always busy serving others, while the other sat quietly at her Lord's feet, lost in prayer and devotion. So who was right? And what should we choose in our own lives, service or devotion? In this video, we'll uncover the deep spiritual lesson hidden in their story, a truth that can still transform our lives today. So stay with us till the end, because what you're about to hear could change the direction of your life. Let's begin. During the time of Jesus Christ, in a small Jewish village called Bethany, lived two sisters, Martha and Mary. Their home was filled with love and hospitality. Whenever the Lord Jesus passed through with his disciples, he often stayed at their house. One day, when Jesus visited them, Martha joyfully welcomed him into her home. She immediately went to prepare food, arrange the table, and make sure everything was perfect. Meanwhile, Mary quietly sat at Jesus' feet. She listened to every word that came from his lips, as if a thirsty soul was drinking in every drop of living water. Her face shone with peace, and her eyes reflected deep faith. Martha kept running around, serving, arranging, working, but inside she began to feel restless. She thought to herself, "My sister isn't helping me at all. I'm doing everything alone while she just sits and listens." Finally, Martha came to Jesus and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to come and help me." Jesus looked at her. His eyes were filled with love, and his voice was calm and gentle. He said, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is truly necessary. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken away from her." Hearing this, Martha grew silent. For the first time, she realized that devotion, the stillness of a heart resting in God, is greater than even the most faithful service. But this story does not end here, because ahead we will discover how Jesus used this simple moment to reveal one of the deepest spiritual truths about life, love, and faith. But the story did not end there, because within this moment lay a message so deep, a truth that still speaks to every soul, torn between doing and believing. That day, Martha fell silent, yet a question echoed in her heart. Did I do something wrong? Is serving less important? Her heart was heavy, but the words of Jesus began to sink slowly into her soul. Jesus did not praise Mary because she did nothing, but because she chose what mattered most, to sit at the Lord's feet and listen. In that moment, Jesus wasn't saying that service was worthless. He was teaching that when service becomes separated from devotion, it turns into busyness, not peace. Martha's service was necessary, but her heart was filled with anxiety. She was working, yes, but not connected to the Lord within. Mary, on the other hand, was doing nothing outwardly, yet her heart was joined with God. Her stillness gave her what no labor could, the peace of his presence. The words of Jesus still remind every generation, no matter how hard we work, how much we give or serve, if our hearts are not resting in the Lord, our service only exhausts the body, not the soul. After that day, Martha understood. The next time Jesus came to their home, she did not rush and worry. She served the meal, yes, but then she smiled, sat beside her master, and listened to his words. Because now she knew, true service begins where devotion touches the heart. That moment changed both sisters forever. One learned that every act must be done in the name of the Lord, and the other learned that every peace begins in his presence. Even today, when we grow weary and lost in the noise of daily life, this story reminds us that true rest is not found in work, but in the presence of the one who is the purpose of every work. Time passed after that day in Bethany. The home of Mary and Martha once again became a place of peace, filled with worship, gratitude, and quiet faith. But soon a storm came that shook their hearts to the core. Their beloved brother, Lazarus, fell gravely ill. Martha immediately sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." They believed if Jesus came, their brother would live. But days passed, and Jesus did not arrive. The illness grew worse. Martha watched helplessly as Lazarus struggled for breath. Mary prayed endlessly, her tears soaking the floor. Every hour felt like a lifetime. And then silence. Lazarus was gone. Their home, once filled with laughter and hymns, was now filled with weeping. Family and friends came to comfort them, but their hearts carried one question: why didn't the Lord come? 4 days later, word spread that Jesus was finally near the village. Martha, still heartbroken, rose and went out to meet him. When she saw him, her emotions burst forth. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Her voice trembled between pain and faith. Yet even in her sorrow, she added softly, "But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus looked at her with deep compassion. He said, "Your brother will rise again." Martha nodded. "Yes, I know in the resurrection at the last day." But Jesus replied with words that shook eternity. "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live, even though he dies." Tears welled up in Martha's eyes. For the first time, she understood. Faith was not just believing that something would happen, but believing in the one who makes it happen. Martha ran back to the house and whispered to Mary, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." Mary rose quickly and went to him. When she saw Jesus, she fell at his feet, weeping. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Jesus, seeing her sorrow, was deeply moved. Tears rolled down his face. The Son of God wept with those he loved. Then he went to the tomb and called out, "Lazarus, come forth." And before the stunned eyes of the crowd, the man who had been dead for 4 days walked out alive. That day, both sisters learned a truth that would never fade. Faith may be tested by delay, but God's timing is never late. He waits not to break our hearts, but to show his glory in ways we could never imagine. When Lazarus stepped out of the tomb, the world seemed to stop for a moment. The people gasped, some fell to their knees, and tears of disbelief turned into tears of joy. The impossible had happened. Death itself had been defeated by the voice of Jesus. Martha stood frozen, her hands trembling as she saw her brother alive again. Mary covered her face, overwhelmed by the power of God. The same Lord who once sat in their home teaching peace had now revealed the full glory of his presence. He was not only a teacher or prophet, he was the very life giver. That day, their hearts understood what words could not explain. Faith was not just listening, nor was it merely serving. It was trusting Jesus completely, even when everything seems lost. The village of Bethany was never the same again. Everywhere people spoke of the miracle. "Lazarus lives," they said. But for Mary and Martha, the greater miracle had already happened within them. Their hearts had come alive with unshakable faith. Later, when Jesus visited their home again, the scene was entirely different from before. This time there was no complaint, no worry, no distraction. Martha still served, but with peace in her eyes. Her work was no longer a burden, for now her service was filled with love and gratitude. And Mary, as always, sat near the feet of Jesus, pouring precious perfume on his feet, wiping them with her hair, her heart overflowing with worship. What a beautiful picture it was. Service and devotion side by side, both offered from hearts full of love. Jesus smiled, because this was the harmony he desired, when work and worship flow together. Through these two sisters, God showed the world that faith has many forms. To serve with love is worship, and to worship with humility is the highest service. Neither is greater, they complete each other when the heart is centered on God. Years later, believers remembered this story, and told their children about Mary and Martha, how one learned peace through faith, and the other found faith through peace. Their home became a symbol of what every heart must become, a place where Jesus is welcomed, listened to, and loved. So when you find yourself torn between service and devotion, remember this. Jesus never asked you to choose between the two. He asked you to invite him into both. Because true peace is found, not in how much you do, but in how deeply you believe. And just like in Bethany, when faith and love meet in one home, miracles happen even today.